Daeho Park's boots clicked against the polished metal floor of Titan Station as he stepped off his personal transport. The massive space station hummed with activity round him. Miners in dirty coveralls walked past sleek businessmen in expensive suits. The air tasted metallic and recycled, carrying the scent of processed titanium and the sweat of thousands of workers. His black suit cost more than most people earned in a year. Diamond cufflinks caught the artificial light as he adjusted his jacket. At 42, Daeho had built an empire from nothing. His antimatter engine designs had revolutionized space travel, making trips between planets as easy as flying between cities back on Earth. The station's announcement system crackled to life. "Welcome to Titan Station. Gateway to the Outer Rim colonies. Please keep your identification ready for a security checkpoints." Daeho barely heard it. He was here on business, checking on his mining operations, but something else had caught his attention. Across the crowded platform, near the budget transport terminal, a woman stood with 3 young boys. His heart nearly stopped. Mi-san Kim looked older than he remembered, but her graceful posture was unmistakable. Her long black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore practical clothes, the kind colonists favored, nothing like the expensive lab coats she used to wear during their research days 15 years ago. The 3 boys standing beside her made Daeho's world tilt sideways. They were clearly brothers, aged somewhere between 8 and 10. Each had the same dark eyes he saw in the mirror every morning, the same sharp jawline that had made him recognizable in business magazines across the galaxy. Impossible, he whispered to himself. The eldest boy, tall for his age, was reading something on a data pad while keeping one eye on his younger brothers. The middle child bounced on his toes, full of energy despite the long wait. The youngest held Mi-san's hand, looking round with wide, curious eyes. Daeho's mind raced. The timeline matched. He and Mi-san had been together during the Kepler Station research project. They had been young scientists then, passionate about xenobiology and discovering new forms of life. Their relationship had been intense but brief, when his first patent made him rich overnight. Everything changed. The pressure, the business meetings, the constant travel had driven them apart. He pushed through the crowd, his expensive shoes splashing through puddles of condensation that dripped from the station's cooling systems. A group of rough-looking miners stepped aside when they recognized him. Everyone knew Daeho. Park's face from the news feeds. "Mi-san," he called out, his voice barely carrying over the noise of the platform. She turned at the sound of her name. For a moment, her face showed pure shock. Her eyes went wide, and she took a small step backward. Then her expression shifted to something else. Resignation, maybe even fear. "Daeho," she said quietly, "what are you doing here?" The 3 boys looked up at him with identical expressions of curiosity. The resemblance was so strong it made his chest tight. They had his eyes, his nose, even the way he used to tilt his head when thinking. "I could ask you the same thing," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You're a long way from the research stations." A transport announcement echoed through the terminal. "Budget liner to Kepler colony now boarding at gate 7. All passengers with children board." First, Mi-san glanced toward the gate, then back at him. "We need to catch the transport." "Wait," Daeho said, stepping closer. The boys were staring at him with open interest now. The youngest tugged on Mi-san's sleeve. "Mom, who is he?" the boy asked in a clear, bright voice. Daeho's heart hammered against his ribs. "Are they—" He couldn't finish the question. Mi-san looked round nervously. The platform was busy, but she seemed worried about something more than just missing her transport. Her eyes kept darting to the security checkpoints and the official-looking men in dark uniforms stationed throughout the terminal. Yes, she whispered, so quietly he had to lean forward to hear her. But it's not what you think. We need to talk, privately. The middle boy had been listening carefully. Are you the famous engine guy? He asked Daiho directly, the one who makes the fast ships. Time in. Don't bother the man, Mi-san said quickly. But Daiho was already kneeling down to the boy's level. Yes, I design engines. What's your name? I'm Taimin. This is Jae-sung. He pointed to his energetic brother. And that's Woojin. The youngest boy gave a small wave. Final boarding. Call for Kepler Colony transport. The announcement system blared. Mi-san grabbed the boy's hands. We have to go. No. Daiho stood up. Please. I have questions. So many questions. She looked at him with something that might have been sadness. I know you do. But this isn't the place. It's not safe. Not safe. What do you mean? Before she could answer, a commotion broke out near the main entrance. Security guards were running toward something. Shots echoed across the platform. The normal chatter of travelers died down as people turned to look. Mi-san's face went pale. They found us. She breathed. Who found you? I'll explain everything. But not here. She looked at his expensive clothes, his confident posture. You have a private ship, don't you? Yes, but then we're coming with you, right now. The boys seemed to understand something was wrong. They moved closer to their mother, suddenly alert and serious. Daiho noticed they positioned themselves like they had practiced this before. Mom, Woojin said quietly, the bad men are here again. Daiho's blood ran cold. What bad men? But Mi-san was already moving, leading the boys toward the private docking bays where expensive ships were parked. I'll tell you everything once we're safe. But right now, we need to leave, all of us. As they hurried through the corridors, Daiho caught glimpses of figures in strange, dark uniforms moving through the crowd. They weren't human security guards. Something about their movements was wrong. Too fluid, too coordinated. His sons. The word hit him like a physical blow after 15 years of building his empire, of focusing only on business and profit. He had just discovered he had 3 sons, and they were running from something that terrified their mother. The private bay doors hissed open, revealing his sleek ship waiting in the docking cradle. As they climbed aboard, Daiho realized his entire life was about to change forever. Daiho's ship cut through space toward the outer colonies, leaving Titan Station far behind. The boys had fallen asleep in the passenger seats, exhausted from their escape. Mi-san stared out at the stars, her hands shaking slightly as she held a cup of synthetic coffee. Your apartment is on Kepler Colony, Daiho asked, trying to break the heavy silence. She nodded. It's not much, but it's home. Always home, until today. The ship's navigation system chimed softly. Approaching Kepler Colony, estimated arrival in 2 hours. During the flight, Daiho couldn't stop stealing glances at the sleeping boys. Taimin, the oldest, even slept with perfect posture. Jae-sung twitched in his dreams like he was running. Little Woojin looked so peaceful, clutching small to a robot. They're good kids, Mi-san said, noticing his stare. They look just like me at that age. I know, that's part of the problem. Kepler Colony was a small mining settlement built into the side of a mountain. Red dust swirled in the thin atmosphere as they landed at the tiny spaceport. Mi-san's apartment was in the cheaper section of town, where the buildings were made from recycled metal and the windows were small to conserve heat. The apartment was tiny but clean. 2 small bedrooms, a kitchen barely big enough for 1 person, and a living area with mismatched furniture. Pictures of the boys at different ages covered one wall. Daeho noticed there were no pictures of him. "Sit down," Mi-san said, setting up her old computer terminal. "What I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about our place in the galaxy." The boys quietly unpacked their few belongings. Timon immediately found a corner with good light and opened a book that looked far too advanced for his age. Jae-sung started doing push-ups on the floor, moving with unusual grace and power. Woo-jin played with building blocks, but his constructions were incredibly complex geometric patterns. After we broke up, Mi-san began. I threw myself into research. I was angry, hurt, and I wanted to prove I could succeed without you. I took a position with a deep space research team studying alien artifacts. She pulled up files on her computer. The screen showed strange symbols and what looked like biological diagrams. We found something on a dead planet in the Vega system. Ancient laboratories. Thousands of years old. The technology inside was beyond anything we'd ever seen. But it wasn't abandoned. Someone was still using it. Daeho leaned forward. Who? The Alterian Council. They're not from our galaxy originally. They've been here for millennia, watching younger species develop. They consider themselves gardeners of evolution. The computer showed images of tall, pale beings with large eyes and elongated limbs. They wore flowing robes and seemed to move with an otherworldly grace. They look almost human, Daeho observed. That's not a coincidence. They've been guiding human development for thousands of years. Small genetic adjustments, nudging our evolution in directions they found useful. Mi-san's voice became bitter. I discovered I was pregnant about 3 months after joining the research team. But something was wrong from the beginning. I was showing signs of pregnancy much earlier than normal. The babies were developing too fast. She showed him medical scans, 3 distinct life forms, but their brain activity was off the charts. The Alterians had been taking genetic samples from researchers without our knowledge. They enhanced the embryos with their biotechnology. Each child was designed to represent a different aspect of human potential. Daeho watched time in. In the corner, the 8-year-old was reading a quantum physics textbook like it was a comic book. Timon's cognitive abilities are enhanced far beyond normal human levels. He understands complex mathematics and scientific concepts that should take years of study. He can process information faster than any computer I've ever seen. She pointed to Jae-sung, who was now balancing on one hand while doing push-ups. Jae-sung has enhanced physical capabilities. His strength, speed, and reflexes are incredible. He can run faster than a speeding vehicle and lift weights that would challenge a grown man. Little Woo-jin looked up from his blocks and smiled at them. His construction had somehow formed a perfect miniature replica of their apartment building, and Woo-jin has mental resistance abilities. He can't be influenced by alien mind control techniques. He also seems to have some kind of intuitive understanding of alien technology. Daeho's head was spinning. This is impossible. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was scared, Mi-san said. At first, I thought they were just gifted children. But as they grew, their abilities became more obvious. Then the Alterians came looking for them. She pulled up news reports from various colonies, enhanced. Humans have been appearing across the galaxy. Children with impossible abilities, the Alterians want them back. But not for protection. What do they want? They consider us a failed experiment. Enhanced humans are too unpredictable, too independent. They want to eliminate us before we become a threat to their control over human development. The apartment security system suddenly started beeping. Red warning lights flashed on the walls. Motion detectors activated, the system announced. Multiple aircraft approaching from the north. Mi-san ran to the window. Her face went white. They found us outside, Sleek silver ships were descending from the orange sky of Kepler Colony. They moved without sound, their hulls reflecting a dim sunlight like mirrors. The ships were beautiful and terrifying, clearly not built by human hands. "How many?" Deho asked, joining her at the window. 6 ships, maybe more. The boys had stopped what they were doing. Without anyone telling them, they moved closer together. Taimin closed his book and stood up. Jae-sung stopped exercising and stretched his muscles. Woo-jin carefully put away his blocks. "Mom," Taimin said calmly, "they're jamming communications throughout the colony." "How do you know that?" Daeho asked. "I can hear the interference patterns. They're using a standard Alterian suppression field." Jae-sung was looking out the window with sharp eyes. 12 soldiers per ship. Standard combat gear. They'll be here in for minutes. Woo-jin tugged on Mi-sun's shirt. "They're trying to make the people in the colony forget we're here. But it's not working on everyone." Daeho stared at his sons in amazement. "How do they know all this?" "Because they're not just enhanced," Mi-sun said grimly. "They're evolving beyond what the Alterians intended. And that's exactly why the aliens want them dead." The security system's beeping became more urgent. Through the window, they could see colonists pointing up at the alien ships in confusion and fear. "We need to run," Mi-sun said, grabbing a small bag of supplies. But Taimin shook his head. "Running won't work this time. Mom, they're tracking us somehow." "Then what do we do?" The 3 boys looked at each other. Something passed between them, a silent communication that their parents couldn't understand. "We fight," Jae-sung said simply. Outside, the first alien ship touched down in the colony's main square. Tall figures in shimmering armor began emerging, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Daeho realized his quiet life as a businessman was over. His sons weren't just children. They were humanity's future, and something was trying to destroy them. The war for human independence was about to begin in a tiny apartment on a forgotten mining colony. And it would start with 3 extraordinary boys who had never asked to be weapons in a cosmic conflict. The first plasma bolt hit the apartment window like lightning striking glass. The reinforced material exploded inward, sending sharp fragments across the small living room. The air filled with the smell of burning metal and ozone. "Everyone down," Mi-sun screamed. Diving behind the kitchen counter, Daeho dropped to the floor, his expensive suit tearing on the rough concrete. Through the shattered window, he could see the sleek alien ships hovering outside like metallic predators. Ropes dropped from their bellies, and armored figures began sliding down toward the building. The apartment door exploded off its hinges. Smoke filled the room as 6 Alterian soldiers stormed inside. They were taller than humans, maybe 7 feet, wearing form-fitting armor that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Their helmets had dark, reflective faceplates that hid their faces, but Daeho could see strange, angular shadows moving behind the glass. The lead soldier raised his weapon, a sleek device that hummed with barely contained energy. When he spoke, his voice came through a translator that made him sound cold and mechanical. "Locate the enhanced specimens. Terminate the adult subjects." The weapon's targeting system swept across the room, painting red dots on the walls. 1 dot settled on Daeho's chest. Another found Mi-sun behind the counter. But then something incredible happened. The 3 boys moved like they had rehearsed this moment their entire lives, without speaking, without even looking at each other. They acted as one perfect unit. Timon's eyes went wide, and suddenly he was processing information faster than any computer. 6 soldiers, standard pulse rifles, 17 shots per power cell. Reload time to 0.3 seconds. Weak point in armor joint connections. He rattled off in a whisper. Jae-sung launched himself from the corner where he'd been standing. He moved so fast he was just a blur, his enhanced muscles propelling him across the room like a missile. His small fist connected with the lead soldier's weapon, and the alien's rifle shattered like glass dot at the same moment. Woo Jin closed his eyes and concentrated. The soldier's helmet displays flickered and went dark. Their communication systems started sparking and smoking. One soldier grabbed his head as feedback screamed through his audio implants. "Impossible," the lead soldier hissed. "The specimens are fighting back." But the boys weren't done. Taimin had calculated the exact angle and force needed. Jae-sung, Soldier 2, Nijunt. 45 degrees. Jae-sung spun and kicked with surgical precision. The second soldier's armor cracked, and he toppled over, his leg unable to support his weight. Woo Jin opened his eyes, and somehow the soldier's weapons started malfunctioning. Barrels overheated, power cells drained. Targeting systems went haywire. The aliens found themselves holding expensive paperweights. "How are they doing this?" One soldier shouted. Mi-sun popped up from behind the counter. "Because you made them too well." Dae-ho saw his chance. A broken alien rifle lay on the floor near his feet. He grabbed it, surprised by how light it felt. The weapon seemed to activate at his touch, as if recognizing human DNA. "This way," he shouted, pointing toward the apartment's emergency exit. The soldiers were regrouping, pulling backup weapons from their armor. More troops were coming through the window on repelling lines. The small apartment was turning into a war zone. Jae-sung grabbed his two brothers and practically flew toward the exit, his enhanced strength allowing him to carry both of them like they weighed nothing. Taimin continued calling out tactical information while Woo Jin disrupted every piece of alien technology he could sense. "Reinforcements coming up the stairwell," Taimin announced. 12 more soldiers, heavy weapons. The emergency exit led to a narrow staircase that zigzagged down the outside of the building. It was meant for maintenance workers, not for families fleeing alien death squads. Dae-ho fired the alien rifle behind them as they ran. The weapons, energy bolts, carved chunks out of the concrete walls. The aliens returned fire, their shots sizzling past their heads. "The landing pad," Mi-sun gasped, pointing toward the small spaceport where Dae-ho's ship waited. But more alien craft were landing. Their soldiers poured out like deadly insects, setting up a perimeter around the entire area. The sleek ships blocked every exit route. "We're surrounded," Dae-ho said. "No, we're not," Woo Jin said calmly. The youngest boy was studying the alien ships with intense concentration. "Their shields have a rotation frequency. I can disrupt it for exactly 14 seconds. That's not enough time to—" Dae-ho started. "It is for me," Jae-sung interrupted. The boy took off running faster than any human should be able to move. His feet barely touched the ground as he sprinted across the 100 yards of open space between. There manned the ship. Alien soldiers fired at him, but he was too fast, dodging and weaving between their energy bolts like he was dancing. The ship's boarding ramp was already lowering as Jae-sung reached it. He'd somehow activated the ship's systems from 50 feet away. "Now, Taimin," shouted. The family ran together across the killing field. Alien weapons fired all round them, but Woo Jin was disrupting their targeting systems. The shots went wide, striking the ground where they'd been a split second before. They dove into the ship just as Jae-sung fired up the engines. The craft lifted off with a roar, alien energy bolts splashing harmlessly against its reinforced hull as they climbed toward the iron sky. Mi-sun collapsed into a passenger seat, breathing heavily. "There are dozens of enhanced human children across the colonies," she gasped. Maybe hundreds. The Alterians created them all as part of their experiment. Deho was still holding the alien rifle, amazed that he'd been able to use it so intuitively. What kind of experiment? They wanted to create the perfect human soldiers, completely loyal, incredibly capable, but totally under their control. She looked at her 3 sons, who were calmly monitoring the ship's systems, but it backfired. Instead of creating controllable subjects, they accelerated our natural adaptability. Through the ship's windows, they could see more alien craft. Rising from the colony to pursue them, the sleek vessels moved like silver sharks through the thin atmosphere. The enhanced children are too independent. Mi-san continued. Too creative, too human. We don't think like the Alterians expected. We work together, but keep our individual personalities. That terrifies them. Taimin was studying the pursuit ships on the scanner. They're jamming our communications. They don't want us to contact the other enhanced children, because if we all work together, Jason added, his hands steady on the controls, we could turn their own technology against them. Woojin looked up from the navigation computer. I'm detecting enhanced children on 17 different colonies. Some of them are in danger right now. Deho made his decision. Then we find the others, all of them. It won't be easy, Mi-san warned. The Alterians have been hunting enhanced humans for months. They're getting desperate. Good, Deho said, grimly, checking the charge on his captured weapon. Desperate enemies make mistakes. Behind them, the alien pursuit ships were gaining ground. Their weapons started firing, energy bolts streaking past the ship's hull. Hold on. Jason called out. I'm going to show them what enhanced human piloting looks like. The ship suddenly rolled and dove, pulling maneuvers that should have been impossible for a craft of its size. The alien pilots couldn't match the boys' incredible reflexes and spatial awareness as they jumped to hyperspace, leaving Kepler colony behind. Deho realized this was just the beginning. His family was now part of something much bigger than he'd ever imagined. The Alterians had created their own worst nightmare, humans who were everything the aliens feared, but nothing they could control. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you tried to cage humanity's potential, and it wouldn't be pretty for anyone who stood in their way. The months that followed turned Deho's luxury ship into a mobile command center for the most important rescue mission in human history. His corporate connections, built over decades of business deals, became lifelines for tracking down enhanced children across the galaxy. Sir, we've got another signal. His ship's AI announced one morning as they drifted in space between star systems. Corporate mining records show unusual energy readings on Kepler 440b. Deho studied the data while sipping his morning coffee. The mining world was a harsh place, all red dust and industrial complexes. But hidden in the employment records were 2 names that made his heart race, Yoon-ho and So-young. Park twin sisters, E9, listed as dependents of a mining foreman who had died in an accident 6 months ago. They're orphans, Mi-san said, reading over his shoulder. Perfect targets for Alterian retrieval teams. The rescue on Kepler 440b nearly went wrong from the start. The twins were living in a run-down orphanage on the edge of the main mining complex. When Deho's team arrived, they found the building surrounded by local security forces who were acting strangely, their eyes unfocused and movements robotic. Mind control, Woojin whispered from the back of their transport vehicle. The aliens are using the guards as puppets, but Yoon-ho and So-young were ready for them. The twin sisters had somehow taken control of the orphanage's computer systems, locking down the building and turning the security cameras into weapons. When the controlled guards tried to enter, they were met with bursts of electricity from modified maintenance robots. Who are you? Yunha called out when Daeho's team breached the building. She was a small girl with fierce eyes. Her hands somehow interfaced directly with a control panel that should have required special equipment to operate. "We're here to help," Mi-san said gently. "We have children like you." So Young looked up from where she was reprogramming a cleaning robot to carry supplies. "You mean other enhanced ones? We can feel them sometimes, like voices in our heads." That was the first hint of something that would change everything. The enhanced children weren't just individually powerful. They were connecting to each other across vast distances of space. The rescue from Europa Station was even more dramatic. Jiho was a 10-year-old boy who had been living alone in the station's maintenance tunnels for weeks, surviving on stolen food and avoiding capture teams. His enhanced reflexes made him nearly impossible to catch, but they also made him paranoid and scared. Jae-sung was the one who finally made contact. He dropped into the tunnels alone, moving through the narrow spaces with fluid grace. "I know you're scared," he called out into the darkness. "We were scared too, but you don't have to run anymore." Jiho appeared like a ghost, dropping from an event with movements so smooth they seemed impossible. "You're like me," he said, studying Jae-sung with sharp eyes. "We are all like you, and we're stronger together," as more enhanced children joined their growing group. Something extraordinary began happening. During quiet moments on the ship, the children would sit together in silence, their eyes closed, sharing information in ways that defied explanation. "It's not telepathy exactly," Taimin explained to his father one evening as stars streaked past the ship's windows. "It's more like we're all connected to the same network. The Alterian genetic modifications created links between our minds. That's impossible," Daeho said. "So is everything else we can do." Yunha pointed out from across the room, where she was casually reprogramming their ship's navigation system by touching it with her bare hands. The network effect grew stronger with each new child they rescued. From the agricultural world of New Hokkaido, they found Sungmin, a boy who could accelerate plant growth and communicate with the colony's biocomputers on the trade station Meridian. They rescued Haijin, whose enhanced pattern recognition allowed her to predict enemy movements hours in advance. Each rescue became easier as the children coordinated their abilities. They would hack alien communication systems, disrupt weapons, and even turn captured Alterian technology against its creators. Stolen alien ships began operating under human control, their advanced systems somehow responding to the enhanced children's touch. "We're not just resisting," Taimin told his father during a quiet moment between missions. "We're evolving past what they can control." The boy was right. The enhanced children were becoming something the Alterians had never intended. Instead of perfect soldiers, they had created perfect rebels. Humans who could work together while maintaining their individual creativity and independence. Meanwhile, in the cold depths of space, Admiral Kethver of the Alterian Council watched his forces suffer defeat after defeat. His tall, pale form stood motionless before a holographic display showing failed missions across dozens of worlds. "The specimens are adapting faster than predicted," his aide reported, the alien's voice carrying undertones of what might have been fear. "They're turning our own technology against us." How many enhanced subjects remain uncaptured? Over 200 confirmed, possibly more. They're hiding throughout human space, and our tracking methods are becoming less effective. Admiral Kethver's elongated fingers drummed against his command chair. "For thousands of years, the Alterian Council had guided younger species through carefully controlled evolution. They had shaped the development of dozens of civilizations, always maintaining perfect control. But humanity was different. Even their enhanced specimens refused to follow the patterns other species had shown. They were chaotic, unpredictable and dangerously creative. The specimens are contaminating normal human populations, another aide reported. Wherever they appear, local humans begin showing increased resistance to our influence protocols. Impossible. The genetic modifications were specifically limited to the enhanced subjects. Nevertheless, the effect is spreading. Human colonies that have harbored enhanced specimens are developing collective immunity to our control methods. Admiral Kethver realized with growing horror that the human enhancement project hadn't just failed. It had created something that threatened the Alterian Council's entire philosophy of controlled evolution. Activate Protocol 7, he commanded, his voice echoing through the vast alien command ship. All enhanced specimens and their protectors are to be eliminated immediately. No exceptions, sir. That will require engaging human military forces directly. It could escalate into full-scale war. Then so be it. The specimens cannot be allowed to reach full development. If they continue evolving at this rate, they will surpass even our capabilities across the galaxy. Alterian fleets began moving toward human space. Hundreds of ships, technologies beyond human understanding, all focused on a single goal: the complete destruction of the enhanced children and anyone who protected them on Deho's ship. The enhanced children felt the change immediately. Their network connection carried whispers of approaching danger, fleets moving through hyperspace, weapons charging across dozens of star systems. "They're coming," little Wujin announced quietly. All of them. Mi-sun looked at the tactical displays showing Alterian fleet movements. "How long do we have?" Diamond's eyes were closed, his enhanced mind processing information from across the galaxy through the children's network. 2 weeks, maybe less. They're targeting every human colony that's harbored enhanced children. Then we need to be ready, Deho said grimly. All of us. The final battle for humanity's future was about to begin, and for the first time in galactic history, the Alterian Council was genuinely afraid of what they had created. The enhanced children weren't just weapons anymore. They were the next step in human evolution, and they were about to show the galaxy what happened when you tried to cage the human spirit. The war would be brutal. But humanity had one advantage the Alterians couldn't understand. They fought not just for survival, but for the right to choose their own destiny. And that made all the difference. Haven Colony had never been meant for war. The peaceful farming world specialized in growing food for the Outer Rim territories. Its rolling green fields and simple settlements far from any major conflict. But now it had become humanity's last stand. Deho stood on the colony's main observation deck, watching as families arrived from across the galaxy. His corporate fleet had been working for weeks, secretly evacuating enhanced children and their protectors from dozens of worlds. The colony's population had swelled from a few thousand farmers to over 50,000 refugees. "Dad, look." Timon called from the communication center he'd built in the colony's old grain warehouse. The -1-year-old had grown tall over the past months, his enhanced mind developing faster than his body. The network is complete. Round him, dozens of enhanced children worked with technology that shouldn't have existed. Alien devices stolen from raids, human computers upgraded beyond recognition, and hybrid systems that no engineer could explain. The children had built something that was part command center, part living organism. 57 enhanced children, connected across 12 star systems, So Young reported from her station. The twins' fingers danced over controls that responded to her touch like musical instruments. "We can coordinate attacks, defenses, even evacuation routes in real time." Mi-sun found Deho on the observation deck as the sun set over heaven's peaceful landscape. "The long-range sensors are picking up something," she said quietly. "Admiral Kethver's main fleet. The Alterian armada appeared in heaven's sky like a metallic storm. Hundreds of ships, each one a work of art that could level a city. They came in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting the orange light of the setting sun like mirrors. The largest ship was over 3 miles long, its elegant curves hiding weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Smaller vessels swarmed round it like deadly insects, their movements coordinated to be entirely natural, citizens of Haven Colony. Admiral Kethra's voice boomed across every communication system on the planet. "You are harboring dangerous genetic specimens. Surrender them immediately, or face complete annihilation." In the warehouse command center, the enhanced children looked up from their work, 57 young faces, connected by something deeper than technology. They had been born as experiments, raised as outcasts, hunted as criminals, but they had found each other, and that had changed everything. "Remember," Mi-san told them, her voice carrying over the colony's internal communication system, "you're stronger together." The battle began in 3 dimensions simultaneously. In space, human pilots launched in fighters that had been upgraded by the enhanced children. The ship shouldn't have been able to compete with Alterian technology, but they didn't fight like normal aircraft. Guided by the children's networking abilities, they moved as one coordinated swarm. Yoon-ho, flying a converted mining ship, rolled through a barrage of alien plasma fire that should have vaporized him. But Hyjin, safe in the command center below, could see the attack patterns 3 moves ahead. Her warnings reached his mind through the network faster than any radio transmission. "Left, dive. Roll. Now climb." Her voice echoed in his head as he pulled maneuvers that turned his simple ship into a deadly dancer among the stars. On the ground, Alterian dropships landed like falling comets. Soldiers in flying armor emerged, their weapons humming with lethal energy. They moved with the precise coordination their species was famous for. But they had never faced anything like the enhanced children. Jae-sung led the ground defense, his enhanced speed turning him into a blur among the alien forces. But he wasn't fighting alone. Through their network, every enhanced child on the planet could see what he saw, think what he thought. "Yoon-ha, I need power to the eastern defensive grid," he called out while ducking under alien plasma fire. 2 miles away, Yoon-ha's hands were already moving over the colony's power systems. Energy flowed exactly where it was needed, turning farm equipment into improvised weapons and irrigation systems into tactical barriers. The Alterian soldiers found themselves fighting an opponent that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Human defenders appeared where they were needed most. Weapons fired from unexpected angles, and their own equipment began malfunctioning in ways that defied explanation. But the real turning point came when little Woojin closed his eyes and reached out across space toward the Alterian command ship. His consciousness, amplified by the network of all 57 enhanced children, touched the alien vessel's computer systems. The ship's defenses tried to stop him, but Woojin wasn't attacking their technology. He was talking to it. "We are not your experiments," he whispered, his words somehow translating into data streams that flowed through every system on every Alterian ship. "We are humanity's future." The message carried something no Alterian could understand or resist. It wasn't just information. It was pure human determination, hope, and the unbreakable belief that freedom was worth fighting for. Admiral Kethva felt it first. The alien commander was reviewing tactical displays when the message hit his consciousness like a physical blow. For the first time in his 1,000-year lifespan, he experienced something he had no words for. Inspiration. Impossible. He whispered, staggering back from his command console. How do they maintain individual identity within collective action? Across the Alterian fleet, similar scenes played out. Ship after ship went dark as their crews struggled to process concepts their rigid hierarchical minds couldn't handle. The idea that beings could work together perfectly while remaining completely independent was like a virus in their thinking. Some ships began firing on their own fleet mates as confused officers tried to restore order. Others simply drifted, their crews lost in contemplation of possibilities they had never imagined. All ships, retreat immediately. Admiral Kethra's final transmission was barely coherent. The specimens have. They're not specimens anymore. They're something else, something we never planned for. The Alterian fleet began its withdrawal. But the damage was already done. The message had spread beyond Haven Colony. Beyond the Enhanced Children's network, every human who heard it felt something awaken inside them, a spark of the same independence and cooperation that made the Enhanced Children so powerful. As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, Deho found himself on the warehouse floor, surrounded by exhausted but triumphant children. His sons were there, tired but unharmed, still connected to their network of friends across the galaxy. "It's over," Mi-san said, but Taimin shook his head. "No, Mom, it's just beginning." The boy was right. Across the galaxy, enhanced humans were stepping out of hiding. Normal humans were refusing to obey alien directives. Colonies were declaring independence from Alterian oversight for the first time in their history. The message had done more than win a battle. It had shown humanity what they could become when they worked together without losing what made them individual. Reports flooded in over the following days. The mining world of New Ceres had thrown off Alterian control. Europa Station was now run entirely by humans. Even Earth itself was reconsidering its agreements with alien advisors. Deho watched his sons playing with the other enhanced children in Heaven's fields, their laughter carrying across the peaceful landscape. They looked like normal kids, but he knew they were so much more. They were humanity's future, not because they were weapons or experiments, but because they proved what humans could accomplish when they truly worked together. The age of alien oversight was over. Humanity had found its voice, and the galaxy would never be the same. For the first time in millennia, humans were truly free to choose their own destiny. And that freedom, born from the dreams of enhanced children and the determination of ordinary people, would spread to every corner of the universe. The stars belonged to humanity now. Not because they had conquered them, but because they had earned the right to walk among them as equals. And in the end, that made all the difference. The end.